Chapter 22. Jeramie stared at Aalliyah astonished and discovered all of his words were gone. A part of him wondered if he misheard her, but the love shining in her eyes told him otherwise. "Are you sure you are ready for a new relationship?" prompted Jeramie. "Yes," she assured. "With you it just feels right, and as if I should have chosen you long ago. I know you will never hurt me like Nate did. Remember how I mentioned the little things are what I want to build a relationship on?" Jeramie nodded. "Even before my heart chose you, when I said that, I could think of a million little things adding up with you. Like the way you rubbed my back after I fell. The way you were so worried. You were crying for me. The way you kissed me when we were under the mistletoe. You stayed by my side when I miscarried and cried tears with me as if it was your baby. Then you came with me to the doctor's and you were my pillar of strength. I know when you first showed me the preserve, it was your way of showing me your world to me in hopes to share it with me. At the dance, you were looking out for me, trying to protect me from Nate and Lucy. I noticed these little things, and it has been enough to heal me and want me to love you." "Then I guess we are official," he claimed, kissing her. When he pulled away, he saw the glow radiating from her eyes and knew it was a reflection of her heart. She slid even closer to him and rested her head against his shoulder and re-interlocked their hands. "Aalliyah, do you recall when I told you not to give up on the Star of Love?" "Of course, you said that shortly after I ended the relationship with Nate." "And you know the legend well, right?" She nodded. "Can you tell it to me?" "The person who sees the Star of Love in the sky and then sees it reflected in another's eyes are two people meant to be together." "Indeed, but as I mentioned, you forgot a tiny detail in the beginning and end. The first person who sees the Star of Love in the sky and then sees it reflected in another's eyes are two people meant to be together. If another also sees the star and it is reflected in the same eyes, they are not destined. Only the first person is the soulmate." "Okay, that makes sense." "Well, if you remember, that first night we met, I pointed the star out to Nate, saying it looked like one of the legendary stars in the book. When I turned around, I looked straight into your eyes and said," Aalliyah gasped and finished, "Your eyes glitter just like the stars. You saw the Star of Love." In the back of her mind, the words he had spoken so long ago had always echoed because no one had ever used such a lovely comparison for her eyes before. Now, as she reflected, she saw how significant those few words truly were. "Yes, but I didn't realize it until Nate observed it. I never forgot that. When I realized I liked you more than a friend, I started to believe it more, but I thought you and Nate were unbreakable. I tried to hide my feelings because I liked you being with Nate and didn't want to come between you both." "Nate and I were never destined to be together. It was always us," she remarked, baffled still. "Nate and I were bound to fail from the moment he asked me out." Jeramie nodded. "Does he know this?" "I highly doubt it." "I kind of want to tell him. He dedicated his life to the legend of the stars, and I'm sure when he realized we were falling apart, he questioned everything. He needs to know the stars told the truth the entire time, and he had read them wrong." "That's a good point. Maybe tomorrow we could go up to Cambridge?" "Are you sure you'd be willing to see him again? It might stir up all the pain again." "I don't like how Nate and I left things, and it bothers me. He had been my friend before we became more, and he was kind back then. I would love if we could make amends instead of being cold towards him. He was your best friend, and I know you miss him." "Very much," Jeramie confirmed softly. "Love is stronger than hate and a far better feeling. I have come a long way in healing, thanks to you, but I believe to truly get over him, I need to face him. If it stirs up the past mound of pain, then at least I have you." She captured his lips again, and then they sat there quietly. Several more minutes went by, and then Jeramie dug their lunches out of his backpack. When they finished eating the sandwiches, they stood up to begin on the way back. Their hands joined together, and off they went, back down the mountain. When evening came, the two were getting ready for bed quite early, but they were tired from walking so many miles. Aalliyah climbed in bed after Jeramie, and he turned the lamp off. He curled his arm over her and hugged her lightly, bringing her even closer than she was already. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. Then he rubbed her shoulder briefly and let his eyes close. He awoke in the morning and saw Aalliyah fast asleep beside him, still curled into his arms. His smile brightened. He propped himself up onto his elbow and kissed her forehead. He had waited such a long time to be able to kiss her every morning, and many days it was hard resisting. But now they were together, and he could. He couldn't wait to shower her in endless kisses each and every day. The two spent most of the morning at the preserve taking care of the animals before heading off to Cambridge. They had found online Nate's schedule of classes and carefully planned it so they would arrive just as one was ending. They came to the campus and started trying to find their way to the building he would be in. Fortunately, a student pointed it out to them. Through the halls they weaved until they were close to the room number that Nate would be in. Taking a deep breath, Aalliyah clutched Jeramie's hand and then took a step towards the open door. In the doorframe, they paused as they watched Nate kiss Lucy. He was standing, but she was sitting in a chair that stood tall from the floor. Again he kissed her and then ran his hand over her flat midsection. He pressed his lips to her shirt then. "Nate, stopped," hissed Lucy, slapping his shoulder. "What's wrong?" he inquired, gazing up to meet her eyes. "Turn around." He stood to his full height, then spun around. His jaw dropped. "What are you two doing here?" Jeramie felt Aalliyah's hand tighten, and he briefly glanced at her and saw her entire body had tensed. He couldn't tell if it was that she was in that much pain and restraining tears, or if she was about to explode in anger. Aalliyah took a deep breath, trying to calm down, and cautiously started. "We wanted to talk. I didn't like how we left things." "Yeah, I didn't exactly leave off on a good note. I left you in pain, bleeding on the floor with no words of comfort. I don't even know where to begin apologizing. I did so much damage. I feared I had destroyed you permanently, but I am so thankful to see you were able to get over me and move on. I'm grateful it's with Jeramie. Truly, he's an angel on earth." "How did you know we are together?" "One, you are holding hands, and it's not because you were scared to face me. Secondly, last night I saw it in the stars the two of you were together. I'm so happy for you. He will treat you the way I never could." "Well, we are destined to be together. It was told by the stars." "What do you mean?" "The star of love claimed we were soulmates." "It did that for us, and look at where it got us." "No, it never did. Jeramie pointed the star out to you, and he saw it in my eyes first." "So I was the second person to see it that evening, which means no matter what we would have done, it never would have worked between us." Aalliyah shook her head, agreeing. "I can't believe it. The legend could still be true then. Thank you, I needed to know that." Then he glanced at Jeramie and thought, "Why did you not tell me you saw the star?" "You loved Aalliyah. I wasn't going to destroy your relationship," he answered. "Okay, but before that, you could have countered me when I proclaimed the star of love destined Aalliyah and I to be together that first day you met her. You know me, I'm quieter in nature. That is the main reason Aalliyah and I came, to tell you the truth about the star. We also came to try to start making amends because I miss my best friend. You don't need to make amends. I do, but I miss you too. You can ask Lucy. I spiraled downhill fast after that night. I felt so lost without you and it hurt. I knew you were angry with me, as you should be, so it'd have to be you to reach out. Luckily, I had Lucy to stand by my side throughout it. She's carrying the child now, can you believe it? I thought as much when I saw you kiss her belly. Yeah, I'm so excited. We did it unintentionally, too. It was the night I broke up with Aalliyah. I was upset with myself and the world, so Lucy suggested she help me burn off steam. Well, we forgot to play it safe. But I don't care. She and I are ready for this chapter. We were talking of getting married now instead of waiting, because once our child comes into the world, we'll have far less time. I love her, but 2 years feels like it's rushing marriage a bit. How does Lucy feel about it? She answered, I'm fine with it. I don't doubt our love, so if we go a bit faster than the average couple, I'm all right with that. Nate continued, if we do get married, we are going to have it small and nearly thrown together. Of course, we still want to try to make it special, but Aalliyah, you know me. I'm not one to focus on details. Aalliyah nodded, adding to the conversation. You always looked at the big picture and ignored the small details, unless it was the stars. Exactly, and you always cherished the little things. I guess that's another good reason we didn't work out. You would have always felt distant because I can't do small things. Lucy, though, is even larger picture than I am, so it works wonderfully. Silence came over the room, so Nate cautiously changed the subject. Aalliyah, I am really sorry. I know how deeply I hurt you. You need to know that was never my intention. Looking back, I could have let you down 1,000 different ways. I'm so sorry I tried to frame you and Jeramie. Jeramie, please forgive me for laying her in bed with you and trying to blame you. The truth is, I was scared to end the relationship without having a solid reason behind my motives. Given falling in love with Lucy is a valid reason, but I didn't want to admit that to you. It would have hurt, but at least you wouldn't have been making me live in your lies. Do you know how hard it was for me trying to make sense of why you were treating me so differently? Tears broke free and started falling down her cheeks. I thought for sure I was doing something wrong, especially because you became more distant after I miscarried. I suffered in silence, hoping the next day would go back to normal. I'm so sorry. It definitely wasn't your fault. Did Jeramie know how upset you were? A bit. I talked to him about my fears that you strayed and didn't love me anymore, but he insisted that wasn't the type of person you were. After I left, I let Jeramie in more, telling him how truly I had been feeling. Jeramie ran his hand across her face, carefully taking her tears with. How badly did I hurt you? Jeramie cut in as he moved his hand to his girlfriend's shoulders. You don't want to know that answer. The wound is still bleeding. She has moved on, but she hasn't fully healed. Aalliyah turned towards Jeramie and buried her head in his chest, crying more. He held his hand against the back of her head and rubbed it gently. Nate saw how deep the cut was, and he wished there was a magical way to erase the pain she was feeling that he caused. When Saturday, October 16th came, the sun was shining brightly, and it was a really warm day, so Jeramie declared it was a perfect day to go to the Jeramie beach, which was just over an hour of a drive. Aalliyah couldn't wait and hurried to pack a day bag, including a swimsuit, sunscreen, sunglasses, towel, and snacks. Off they set in Jeramie's car. Aalliyah was practically exploding with enthusiasm and stated, You know I love the beach, but I haven't gone since I was a child. Really? Sought Jeramie. Why did you stay away so long if you love it? Never had a chance to go, or the times I would want to go, it would storm. What about you? When was the last time you went to the beach? It's been several years because I've been so busy with the preserve. It has really grown in recent years, and Nate, who usually went with me, never cared much for the beach. Shortly they arrived at Jeramie Beach, and surprisingly not too many people were there. They carried their bags out onto the sand and lied out on a blanket to sit on. Aalliyah went into the one shack and came out wearing a white swimsuit with black polka dots. Over top she had a white lace cover-up. She twisted her hair up as she walked back to the blanket. Jeramie smiled warmly and kissed her. Can you please help me with the sunscreen? She requested, and he nodded. First she tossed her cover-up off, and then she lied down on the blanket on her belly. Jeramie knelt down and placed the cream into his palm. He set his hand on her back, and she flinched. What's wrong? He demanded. Nothing, it's just cold and startled me. I'm sorry. It's fine. He continued rubbing it into her skin, making sure not to miss a single spot of her almost completely exposed back. He even wound his fingers under the string straps around her neck, knowing if the string moved and he didn't get the spot, she'd burn. Once her back was completely covered, he got the back of her legs. She sat up and faced him then. He held out the bottle to her, but she shook her head. Go on, she urged. You can reach the front, though, he countered. She didn't say anything and kept her eyes locked with his. I wouldn't mind helping, but I don't want to cross your boundaries. You wouldn't be. You would just be putting on sunscreen. She smirked, knowing that wasn't completely true. He sighed, realizing that was exactly what she wanted, or maybe even needed in the moment to help her continue healing from Nate. Lightly, he began rubbing the cream onto her belly and then started working his way up. He barely let his fingers glide under the short top, trying his hardest not to touch her, but he knew soon there would be no avoiding it. Jeramie added more cream to his fingers and, taking a deep breath, placed his hand on her chest. First, he went over the V area where the fabric wasn't, but then knew he'd have to wind his fingers under the material if he was to protect her from the sun's rays. Gently, he pushed his fingers under her swimsuit and finished putting the protection layer from the sun on. Then he went over her collarbone and neck. Lastly, he ran his hand over her face. Aalliyah beamed and stole a kiss. She took over then, putting the sunscreen on the front of her legs, while Jeramie placed sunscreen on his legs and arms. Would you like me to get your back? She questioned. No, I'm one of those odd people that keep a swim shirt on, he responded. Why, if I may ask? 2 reasons. 1, I wouldn't want to frighten others, like children with the scar on my back. And 2, I feel more comfortable. Likely the scar is part of why. I know once when I was little, 2 years after the accident, I was going swimming with friends and took my shirt off. They shrieked when they saw the scar. I hurried to put my shirt on, and it's stayed on ever since. I'm sorry that happened. I think your scar is beautiful because it shows all you have survived. I'm glad you see it that way, my darling. You don't? I mean, I do, but it's also a reminder of how much pain I had gone through as a young age. Let's not dwell on it right now and have some fun. She smiled and he kissed her cheek for a long moment. Then he slipped his hand into hers, and in sync they headed towards the water. They went to the edge of the waves and let the cool water caress their ankles. Aalliyah took a step forward, but Jeramie didn't move. She moved another foot to see if he would follow, but he didn't and only extended his arm to keep from dropping her hand. She turned and faced him and saw the hesitation on his face. What? She questioned. The water is a bit crisp right now, he informed. Is it? She taunted playfully and grazed her foot across the surface, sprinkling him. It is, she giggled and kicked more water at him. Does it not bother you? Nope. Good. He splashed her back, but got more water on her than she had on him. So, of course, she sloshed her foot through the waves quicker to stir up more. She released his hand and carefully trotted a few steps back to avoid his splashing. He started running after her, and she shrieked, quickly scurrying off down the sand. Jeramie pretended he wouldn't catch her and continued splashing as she continued running in zigzags. He sped up, and she shrieked as he got closer. In another second, he caught up to her and swooped her up in his arms. Before she could escape, he carried her several feet out into the waves. Just as a large one was rolling, he jumped into it, dunking them both fully in the water. He made sure not to let go of her, though. The two surfaced as the wave mellowed out. Jeramie sat there on the sand, letting the little waves ride up to his collarbone. Aalliyah was beaming and stretched her neck up and kissed him. I love you, Jeramie, she declared. Taken by surprise, she'd say that after only 5 days of dating him. I love you too, he responded, kissing her forehead. What is it? She saw it, seeing thoughts crossing his mind. I'm just surprised you were so swift to say those magic words. I had longed to say them to you since I have started having feelings for you 2 years ago. But I thought for sure I wouldn't hear them from you for many months. I know Nate hurt you deeply, so I hadn't expected you to expose your heart so easily again. I know what my heart feels. My kisses are my words. I would have said I love you the day we officially became together. How long did you like me before telling me? She shrugged to avoid the question. Aalliyah. She glanced away, breaking eye contact, but he understood. You liked me when you were still with Nate. Slowly she nodded. Oh, feather, Aalliyah. How long? Finally she answered. Only since he started being distant. So a little less than a year, several months. He pulled away and it pulled me closer to you. You took care of me. You were always there for me. I hated feeling alone and you were there. I felt the pull of my heart, but I thought it was in my head because I was missing Nate. But it grew stronger by day. I still loved Nate and wanted to be with him. And I kept fighting, trying to make it work between us, and nothing worked. Then it all spiraled out of control the night of the double date, and I had no other choice than to end it with Nate. I was terrified you were going to follow Nate and leave me too. But you stayed by my side. You picked up my pieces and put me back together. I knew that my feelings were true and in the right place, and it wasn't my mind terrorizing me for the broken relationship I had been living with Nate. It was true. That's why I chose you so fast. I love you so much. Jeramie kissed her cheek and brushed away a few tears that had escaped. I have to ask, though, how did you manage to hide your feelings from me, because you know I could not keep my heart hidden from you no matter what? It took all of my strength to conceal it, and it was exhausting. I hesitated before every word I spoke, making sure I didn't let the wrong ones escape. I tried not to stand too close to you for fear I'd want to take your hand or kiss you, and I took it out on myself for my heart, turning your direction in replacement of Nate. When no one was looking, I'd slip away and just cry. Some nights Nate would hold me. I'd even picture it was your gentle arms instead of his. And then I'd cry myself to sleep, angry that my mind would create that in my head. Oh, my darling, you tortured yourself. She nodded and wiped her tears away. Then she kissed his cheek and declared, "But it doesn't matter now, because we are together, and my heart wasn't lying, just the stars were telling the truth." She rolled herself out of his arms and stood up, taking his hand as they rose to his feet too. The two walked over to the stone wall that jutted out over the water and sat down. Their legs dangled in the air over the waves that were several inches away. Jeramie wrapped his arm around her, and she held onto him tightly, soaking up the moment. Then she took her left leg and crossed it over Jeramie's right. Then he placed his left foot over hers, caressing the side of it. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. Silently, the two sat there, watching the waves and cherishing the peaceful moment. After a bit, the two packed up the beach blanket and took their bags back to the car. Then they went on to the pier, where there was a little shack shop. They got a tropical pink margarita with a little umbrella and sat staring out over the sea. Jeramie sat with his arm wrapped around her as he rubbed her back. Between sips, he stole a kiss on her cheek, making it perfectly clear how strong his love was. For Christmas that year, Aalliyah proposed they do something a little bit different. Jeramie agreed to it, so they went to Galway, Ireland, where her parents lived, instead of having Lisa and James come to them in England. Lisa, of course, was delighted to see her daughter and Jeramie and happily welcomed them into the home. Shortly after the two came, Maeve arrived and was bounding with her usual high energy. Her eyes fell on her niece, and she saw Jeramie gently rubbing her shoulder. Maeve smiled, seeing the beauty of their relationship. Lisa also watched the two carefully and saw the difference in how Jeramie treated Aalliyah compared to Nate. His touch was softer, more tender, and more sincere. It was clear to everyone their emotional bond was far stronger than it had ever been between her and Nate. Aalliyah and Jeramie's souls were intertwined so deeply that the threads would never be able to untangle. The room radiated with their love because it was pure and true.